Welcome to Wuhan, the beating heart of central China. It's a mist morning here, and we are starting today's journey right outside the Wuhan East Railway Station, located in the booming Optics Valley Tech District. Today, I'm taking you on a first-person driving tour to experience the sheer scale of this city. And we're doing it in one of the most talked-about vehicles in China. Wuhan spring arrives with a temperature around 15 degrees Celsius or 59 Fahrenheit, under a gentle breeze and a faint haze that veils the city. The air quality index reads approximately 150, indicating moderate pollution on this tranquil day. Waiting for us just ahead is our ride for the day, the fully electric Xiaomi YU7. The Xiaomi YU7 comes in three variants, the YU7, YU7 Pro, and YU7 Max. Today we're behind the wheel of the base model, the YU7, finished in a color called glimmering rose gold. This special paint shifts in tone under different lighting. In bright sunlight, a pearlescent sheen overlays the soft pink base, revealing shimmering gold flecks that catch the light. You may have noticed the unconventional hollow design of the YU7's upper headlights. These are not just a visual highlight, they double as functional air intakes. For an electric vehicle, range is everything. The YU7's smooth, rounded silhouette, combined with multiple integrated air channels, results in an exceptionally low drag coefficient. This aerodynamic efficiency contributes to an impressive CLTC-rated range of 835 kilometers, or 518 miles. Adding to its intelligent design, the YU7 is equipped with a roof-mounted LiDAR sensor. This enables the vehicle's proprietary advanced driver assist system, bringing a new layer of confidence and autonomy to every journey. Now, across this expansive digital canvas, the city of Wuhan reveals its ancient logic. Its very urban fabric is defined by two mighty rivers. Dominating the view, flowing from the southwest to the northeast, is the Yangtze River, China's great artery, the longest waterway in Asia. For millennia, it has been a cradle of civilization and a conduit of trade. Converging with it from the northwest is its most significant tributary here, the Han River. Together, these two waterways perform a geographic alchemy, naturally dividing Wuhan into three distinct districts. To the east of the Yangtze lies Wuchang, the historical and academic heartland. On the other side of the Yangtze and north of the Han River is Hankou, the bustling commercial powerhouse. And nestled south of the Han River, across from Wuchang, is Hanyang, the cradle of China's modern industry. This is the enduring three towns within one city, a metropolis, born from the confluence of waters. In addition, Wuhan is rich in lakes, and the province where it is located is known as the Province of Thousands of Lakes. Let us map our journey this morning with a simple animation. Our route begins in the Wuchang district. We'll ascend a viaduct that elevates us above the urban landscape, offering a sweeping vantage point before our path descends gracefully to meet the shoreline of East Lake. Here we'll trace the lake's contour, allowing the serene waterscapes and lush greenery to frame our passage, a moment of tranquility within the city's pulse. Transitioning from water to steel and history, we will cross the mighty Yangtze via the landmark Yangtze River Bridge. This iconic span carries us from the shores of Wuchang into the vibrant heart of Hankou. In Hankou, we'll witness the fascinating dialogue between its storied past and its dynamic present, where historic architecture stands shoulder to shoulder with gleaming modern towers. Our final leg unfolds along the celebrated Riverfront Avenue. As we travel this storied corridor, a procession of timeless historical buildings will line our route, each narrating a chapter of the city's rich legacy, with the enduring flow of the Yangtze as our constant companion. Let's fasten our seatbelts and get ready to go. As we set out, the city skyline is softened, or somewhat obscured, by a veil of haze, a sight not uncommon in spring of many modern Chinese metropolises. Despite the haze outside, here inside the cabin, there's little cause for concern. Much like the Tesla Model Y, the Xiaomi YU7 is equipped with a large HEPA-grade air filtration system. It actively scrubs the incoming air, significantly reducing pollutants and maintaining a fresh environment inside. In fact, within just minutes of driving, the vehicle's own display confirms it. The cabin air quality readings have dropped to remarkably low levels. We are currently gliding along one of Wuhan's elevated expressways. Beneath us unfolds a metropolis of staggering scale, a city with a population rivaling that of entire nations. In fact, Wuhan has a permanent population of over 13 million, and this single city alone has a population roughly equivalent to half of Australia's. To serve this immense populace and its vast fleet of vehicles, Wuhan has engineered a solution in concrete and steel, an extensive, interconnected network of elevated expressways and arterial roads. This is a system designed for uninterrupted movement. For miles, there are no traffic lights, only the constant, rhythmic pulse of transit. The scale of this elevated labyrinth is not just impressive. It ranks first among the most extensive and sophisticated urban expressway networks in the nation. To this day, Wuhan boasts approximately 550 kilometers, or 341 miles, of expressways. The speed limit is set at 70 or 80 kilometers per hour, equivalent to 43 or 50 miles per hour. The lattice-like structure arching over this elevated expressway is a sound barrier, designed to shield nearby residential areas from the constant roar of high-speed traffic. However, the grid design, while effective for its primary purpose, comes with a visual side effect. When under direct sunlight, it can create a pronounced flicker or glare for drivers passing beneath, a small but notable trade-off in urban engineering. To our right now stretches the vast, serene expanse of East Lake. Situated not on the outskirts but deep within the very heart of Wuhan, it functions as a true urban oasis, a breath of fresh air woven into the city's fabric. For Wuhan's residents, this isn't a distant destination for a special trip. It's more like the city's collective backyard. On a pleasant day, you'll find people simply sitting by the water to enjoy the breeze, or cycling, strolling, and jogging along its extensive greenways that trace the shoreline. When spring arrives and the cherry blossoms burst into bloom, locals flock here to admire them. In winter, it's the turn of the plum blossoms. For so many here, East Lake isn't just a scenic spot. It is seamlessly woven into the rhythm of daily life. This white sedan ahead of us is operating as a ride-hailing vehicle, what you might call the Chinese equivalent of an Uber. But there's a key difference. Unlike Uber, where drivers typically use their personal cars, here in Wuhan, most ride-hailing drivers lease their vehicles from rental companies. The reason comes down to regulation. To operate legally, a vehicle needs a special permit, the web-based car hailing transport permit. It's difficult for private cars to obtain this license, and even if they do, the vehicle faces much stricter mandatory retirement rules and much higher insurance price. As a result, most drivers who do this full-time choose to lease a car that already comes with the proper certification. And these rental fleets are mostly made up of affordable, white, all-electric sedans. That's why, when buying a personal car, many consumers consciously avoid choosing a similar-looking, budget-white EV, preferring not to blend in with the ride-hailing fleet. It's mid-March, and the cherry blossoms around Wuhan's East Lake are in full bloom. With crowds of visitors arriving to admire them, temporary traffic controls are in place, meaning we can't drive too close to the lakeshore. You might wonder, cherry blossoms or sakura are often seen as deeply symbolic in Japanese culture, so why are they so widely planted and beloved here in central China? The story stretches back through time. During the Second World War, after Japanese forces occupied Wuhan, they brought about 30 cherry trees from Japan and planted them on the campus of Wuhan University, both to comfort homesick soldiers and to project an image of lasting control. At that time, Wuhan University was occupied as the headquarters of Japanese Army Central Plains. Those original trees withered naturally before 1970s. Then, in 1972, with the normalization of diplomatic relations between China and Japan, Japan-China Friendship Association, and other non-governmental organizations gifted China 1,000 cherry trees. 50 of them were planted again at Wuhan University. Over the following decades, the university continued to introduce new varieties through gifts from Japanese civic groups, independent cultivation, and exchanges, gradually creating the vast, breathtaking cherry blossom groves we see today. Meanwhile, the government has also established the East Lake Cherry Blossom Garden on the edge of East Lake to accommodate these cherry blossom trees brought from Japan, which now form a spectacular scene. These trees are living witnesses to the transition from the wounds of war to peaceful exchange between China and Japan. And today, they have also become one of Wuhan's most iconic natural treasures, a symbol of beauty that transcends borders, rooted deeply in this city's memory and landscape. If this story of botanical diplomacy sounds familiar, It might remind our international viewers of the tidal basin in Washington, D.C. Just like the famous Japanese cherry trees gifted to the United States in 1912, Wuhan's blossoms serve as a living monument to international reconciliation. They stand as a powerful global reminder that nature can often heal the deepest wounds of history. Look at the license plates on the vehicles ahead. Some are blue with white characters, others feature a green to white gradient background with black lettering. In fact, this is how China visually distinguishes between different types of vehicle powertrains. Conventional petrol and diesel cars, along with hybrids like those from Toyota, carry the classic blue license plates. In contrast, all electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids are issued the gradient green plates with black characters. You might also notice that the green plates carry one extra digit compared to the blue ones. These green plates were introduced in 2016, and their distinctive design was actually chosen through a public online vote. Before that, even electric vehicles used blue plates, which is why, even today, you might spot the occasional Tesla with a blue license plate, a rare sight representing models imported before the change. In recent years, however, there's been growing discussion around the design of these green plates. Some argue that their color and style clash aesthetically with modern car designs, especially when paired with bold or vibrant vehicle colors. In 2025, Lei Jun, founder of Xiaomi, publicly called for a redesign of the green plates, stating that they often don't harmonize with contemporary automotive design language. So far, however, there has been no official response or change to the policy. We are now crossing the Optics Valley Bridge, which spans a section of East Lake. Unfortunately, the weather today obscures the view. On a clearer day, you'd see the lake's serene shoreline unfolding beside us. To our right, you can make out a patch of low-rise, somewhat disorderly housing. This is what's known as an urban village. As Chinese cities expand outward, they often envelop existing rural settlements within their newly drawn boundaries. Sometimes these villages are entirely cleared, replaced by modern buildings, roads, and public facilities. Former residents are compensated with money or new housing, often referred to as replacement buildings, leaving little trace of the original community. In other cases, like the one we see here, urban development simply flows around the village. It becomes an island of older structures encircled by the modern city, a living snapshot of the past, preserved within the rhythm of the present. Returning to the cabin, you may have noticed something unique about the instrument display in the Xiaomi YU7. Stretched across the lower edge of the entire windshield is a dark-tinted projection strip. This is where Xiaomi's panoramic head-up display, named the Xiaomi HyperVision, comes to life. It projects essential driving data, navigation cues, and even entertainment information, effectively replacing traditional analog gauges or digital driver displays. While it may appear dim on camera, to the human eye, the HyperVision offers noticeably finer detail, a significantly wider field of view, and superior contrast compared to conventional HUDs. Better still, it's fully integrated into the vehicle's digital ecosystem, allowing drivers to customize what is shown and how it appears. For instance, you might have spotted a faint white otter figure on the right side of the display. That's one of the customizable companions, a dynamic digital otter that accompanies you on your drive. It reacts in real time. Lean into a sharp turn, accelerate briskly, or brake hard, and the little otter responds with its own playful movements. Now, automotive enthusiasts watching this might find this panoramic HUD somewhat familiar. A few years ago, BMW made massive waves by demonstrating this exact type of full windshield projection, which they called panoramic vision, in their highly anticipated Neue Klasse concept cars. Those same concept cars also featured a very striking, futuristic, parallelogram-shaped central touchscreen that caught everyone's attention. But here is what is truly remarkable. While legacy giants like BMW were touring the world, showing off advanced windshield HUDs and futuristic screens as a vision of the distant future, a consumer electronics company like Xiaomi actually beat them to the punch. They took this sci-fi concept of replacing traditional gauges with massive projections and implemented it into a mass-produced vehicle that is driving on the road today. We now enter an area where, to our left, lies the campus of Wuhan University. This institution holds a special connection to the world of technology. It is the alma mater of Lei Jun, founder and CEO of Xiaomi. In the late 1980s, Lei Jun enrolled in Wuhan University's computer science department. What's remarkable is that he completed all required credits for a 4-year degree in just 2 years, while consistently ranking at the top of his class. His programming assignment from his sophomore year was so exemplary that it was later incorporated into the department's teaching materials. While still a student and shortly after graduation, he had already begun developing practical software, antivirus tools, memory management utilities, encryption programs, small yet innovative applications that not only showcased his talent, but also earned him his first substantial income. After graduating from Wuhan University, Lei Jun quickly joined a startup called Kingsoft, becoming the company's 6th employee. At the time, Kingsoft was determined to develop its own office software, aiming to compete directly with the global giant Microsoft Office. Over the next 3 years, Kingsoft succeeded in creating its own office suite. However, faced with fierce competition from Microsoft and the widespread issue of software piracy, Kingsoft suffered a devastating defeat in the market, pushing the company to the brink of collapse. By the late 1990s, Lei Jun had risen to become general manager and later CEO of Kingsoft in Beijing. Leading the company, he steered it on a dual path, continuing the fight against Microsoft, while also driving a strategic transformation. During this period, Kingsoft diversified its portfolio, developing translation software, antivirus programs, and video games. These products generated substantial revenue, providing the crucial cash flow that ensured the company's survival. By 2007, Lei Jun had served as CEO of Kingsoft for nearly a decade. Under his leadership, the once struggling company had been transformed, boasting a portfolio of widely recognized software products and achieving a successful public listing. Yet shortly after the IPO, Lei stepped down from his role as CEO, stating that the time had come for him to step back from day-to-day operations. Though he would later return as chairman of the board in 2011, that was a story yet to unfold. After stepping down as CEO of Kingsoft, Lei Jun became an angel investor. Over the following 3 years, he invested in numerous mobile internet projects, an experience that led this veteran of the PC software industry to a profound realization. The shift toward mobile internet was irreversible. Immersed in this new landscape, he came to understand the core dynamics of the mobile era: user experience, community building, rapid iteration, and explosive user growth. It was a transitional, almost chaotic period. Smartphones had emerged, yet the market was still dominated by Nokia. Amid this uncertainty, Lei became convinced that the age of the smartphone was approaching a point of no return, and that iPhone and Android would soon revolutionize the entire mobile industry. At the end of 2009, Lei Jun revived his entrepreneurial ambitions. He recruited top talent from Google, Microsoft, Motorola, and others, and the following year founded Xiaomi, a company initially focused on smartphone hardware and software. Xiaomi's first product wasn't a phone. It was MIUI, a custom Android ROM. In those early days of Android, the stock system was rough, clunky to use, visually disjointed, and lacking features tailored for Chinese users. To get a better experience, enthusiasts had to root their devices, gaining administrative access to remove bloatware or modify system files, and then flash a custom ROM, essentially replacing the phone's operating system. MIUI emerged as one of China's earliest custom Android rooms, pioneering a completely new development and engagement model. It rebuilt Android from the ground up, redesigning its interface and underlying architecture, while also building a highly active online community. This forum wasn't just a place to download software or find tutorials. It became the engine of development itself. Users submitted feature ideas, reported bugs, and voted on what would be added next. Every Friday, the MIUI team released a new update, then spent the following week rapidly iterating based on community feedback. This community-driven weekly update approach allowed MIUI to fix issues and add features at an astonishing pace. It integrated localized functions Chinese users wanted, like caller location display, toggle buttons in the notification shade, and cloud services, long before stock Android offered them. Critically, MIUI wasn't tied to any specific hardware. Through crowdsourced testing and adaptation requests from the community, it expanded to support popular phone models on the market. Anyone with a mainstream Android device could, through flashing, gain a far more polished and ever-evolving operating experience. This software-first, community-built, rapid iteration model did more than refine a product. It gathered millions of devoted users worldwide through word of mouth, well before Xiaomi's first phone ever launched. It built the user base, the trust, and the foundational DNA for what would become Xiaomi's internet-driven approach to making smartphones. While Xiaomi was busy perfecting the digital experience in our pockets with MIUI, Wuhan was building spectacular visual experiences right here on the streets. The tall red building on the right front is the Hanshou Theater. Rising like a colossal red lantern, the Hanshou Theater is an architectural landmark in Wuhan. Designed by the UK-renowned Mark Fisher, its iconic form draws inspiration from a classic symbol of Chinese tradition. Within, the theater redefines live performance. It is the first in the world to feature 2,000 moving seats, which reconfigure during the show, seamlessly transporting the audience between aerial and aquatic perspectives. The stage itself is a technological marvel, dominated by a vast pool holding the equivalent of 4 Olympic swimming pools, complemented by high-resolution LED screens on robotic arms. In the theater, a regular Han show is performed every week, helmed by legendary director Franco Dragone. The Han show weaves together music, dance, acrobatics, and cutting-edge technology. Its narrative is inspired by the rich history of the Wuhan region and the spirit of Wuhan itself. This fusion creates an unprecedented, immersive spectacle that challenges the very boundaries of live theater. Let's get back to talking about Xiaomi. In its second year after founded, 2011, with MIUI having already cultivated a significant and dedicated fan base, Xiaomi unveiled its first-generation smartphone, the Xiaomi YU7. Priced at around 2,000 RMB, or roughly below $300, the phone came loaded with MIUI and delivered specifications that outperformed most rivals in its price range and even many higher-end models. A more powerful processor, a larger screen, superior memory and storage configurations, and a better camera. Dubbed by the media at the time as a price disruptor, it instantly ignited the market. This device broke the long-standing monopoly of overpriced foreign premium brands and fundamentally reshaped the competitive landscape of China's smartphone industry. Following the breakout success of the Xiaomi YU7, Lei Jun steered the company on a path of relentless evolution. Xiaomi continued to refine and iterate its MIUI software, steadfastly upholding its value for money philosophy while expanding its hardware lineup. It built an integrated online and offline retail network and advanced its global footprint. From the main Xiaomi brand emerged sub-brands, Redmi, targeting the value segment, and Poco, focused on international markets. Concurrently, Xiaomi aggressively cultivated and invested in an ecosystem of partner companies. It wove together a vast array of smart home devices, lifestyle products, and wearables, all connected through its own IoT platform, creating the world's largest consumer AIoT ecosystem. Its sheer breadth of offerings led many to affectionately call it the Xiaomi General Store. In 2018, Xiaomi achieved a milestone with its successful IPO. The following year, it earned a place in the Fortune Global 500, becoming the youngest company ever to join the list at that time. By 2021, its quarterly smartphone shipments had briefly climbed to the world's second highest. Within a decade of its founding, Xiaomi had utterly transformed China's smartphone landscape, defined and led the consumer IoT revolution, and brought smart ecosystems into millions of homes. It proved that a Chinese tech company could compete on the global stage alongside established giants. For consumers worldwide, Xiaomi has made its vision of innovation for everyone tangible. It has allowed people to experience and access cutting-edge technology, offering a gateway to the future without requiring a fortune. To our right, nestled among the trees, stands the Hubei Provincial Museum. Hubei is the province whose capital is the city of Wuhan. Within this museum's collection lie two crown jewels. The first is the sword of Gujian, king of Yue. This bronze sword was crafted around 490 BC, a time contemporaneous with the classical period of ancient Greece. It is not large, measuring about 56 centimeters or 22 inches in length and weighing approximately 875 grams or just under 2 pounds. Its blade is adorned with an intricate pattern of dark rhombi, while the guard is inlaid with blue glass and turquoise. The form of the sword is one of elegant, refined simplicity. Behind this weapon lies a tale known to nearly everyone in China. Around the 5th century BC, China was divided into warring states. Two neighboring kingdoms, Wu and Yue, were locked in prolonged conflict. After a major defeat, the king of Yue, Gujian, was captured and taken to Wu as a prisoner. There, he endured years of humiliation, forced to serve as a groom, a tomb guardian, and a menial laborer. After 3 years, the king of Wu, believing Gujian truly subdued, released him. Returning home, Gujian was consumed by a desire for vengeance. To harden his resolve, he slept on firewood and tasted bitter gall before each meal, constant reminders of his nation's shame. He revived agriculture, appointed talented advisors, trained soldiers, and forged weapons, steadily strengthening his kingdom. This very sword was crafted for him during that period by master smiths. After more than a decade of discipline and preparation, Gao Jian seized his moment. While Wu's army was campaigning to the north, he led a revitalized Yue force in a decisive assault, storming the Wu capital and compelling its king to take his own life. Yue thus emerged as a new regional power. If you have ever read a book on business strategy, military history, or leadership, you have probably encountered the famous book, The Art of War. Its author, the legendary military strategist Sun Tzu, is actually a central character in this exact historical saga. During this warring period, Sun Tzu served as the top military general and strategist for the rival kingdom of Wu. He was the architect who built Wu's terrifyingly disciplined military machine. It was Sun Tzu's unparalleled strategic genius that laid the foundation for Wu's dominance, which ultimately allowed them to crush King Gujian's army in the first place, forcing Gujian into those years of humiliating servitude. But Sun Tzu was as wise in politics as he was in battle. He understood that holding on to power was dangerous. After achieving massive military successes and cementing the kingdom of Wu as a superpower, Sun Tzu essentially retired and vanished from the historical record. And that is the great historical irony that ties this all together. When Sun Tzu left, he took his strategic brilliance with him. The subsequent king of Wu grew arrogant and ignored the warnings of his remaining advisors. That arrogance was exactly what Gu Jian was waiting for during all those years of tasting bitter gall. Without Sun Tzu to see through the deception, the kingdom of Wu was eventually completely annihilated by Gu Jian's patient, calculated revenge. It serves as the ultimate historical proof of one of Sun Tzu's own most famous quotes: "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." Gao Jian knew his enemy perfectly. The king of Wu did not. Today, the sword of Gao Jian, king of Yue, remains not only a marvel of ancient metallurgy, but also an enduring symbol of resilience, patience, and the will to reclaim one's destiny. Yet the sword of Gu Jian, king of Yue, was not found in the tomb of the king of Yue himself. Instead, it was unearthed from the burial site of a nobleman from a later period, a ruler of a neighboring state. The widely accepted explanation is that the blade was later taken as a trophy of war and bestowed upon this noble as an honor. When discovered, the sword lay tucked beside the tomb occupant's remains, a telling detail that speaks to its prized status. Even after more than 2 millennia buried in the earth, its edge remained astonishingly sharp, still capable of slicing cleanly through layers of paper with ease. The second treasure is known as the chime bells of Marquise Yi of Zheng. This is a set of large bronze ritual musical instruments cast around 433 BC, during China's pre-Qin period, a time parallel to the classical age of ancient Greece. The set comprises 65 individual bells of varying sizes, mounted on an elaborate bronze frame. Played with specialized mallets, similar to drumsticks, striking different parts of each bell produces distinct musical tones. Remarkably, even upon excavation, these bells remained perfectly tuned, still capable of sounding clear and accurate pitches. The entire ensemble weighs approximately 2.5 tons, about the mass of 1.5 cars. The largest bell stands over 150 centimeters, or 5 feet tall, and weighs more than 200 kilograms, while the smallest is only slightly larger than a modern smartphone. When combined as a whole, the entire large musical instrument reaches a height of over 2.6 meters, or 8.5 feet, which is close to the height of a one-story building, while its width from left to right is approximately equivalent to that of a short school bus. Most of the bells are adorned with intricate patterns and detailed inscriptions. These inscriptions preserve invaluable records of musical theory from over 2 millennia ago, documenting scales, pitch standards, and tonal relationships that formed the musical canon of the era. The chime bells of Marquise Yi of Zheng represent the pinnacle of ancient Chinese bronze craftsmanship. Beyond their artistic grandeur, they have profoundly expanded our understanding of early Chinese music, acoustics, and ritual culture, echoing a sophisticated sonic world that once filled ceremonial halls long ago. We are leaving the quiet lakeside behind us and heading up onto one of Wuhan's incredible Yangtze River bridges. Take a look at the scale of this structure and the water below. On the other side of this river is the dense, beating heart of the downtown urban area. The scenery is about to trade green trees for towering skyscrapers, and the traffic will definitely pick up. I'm going to let you soak in the raw energy of the city streets for a bit, but I'll jump back in when we hit our next major landmark. Welcome back. As you can see, we are now deep into the towering concrete canyons and heavy traffic of the urban core. Since we have a bit of a drive before our next historic landmark, and we are currently relying on this car to navigate the dense city grid, this is the perfect time to answer the biggest question surrounding this vehicle. Earlier in our journey, we talked about the incredible rise of Lei Jun. From his early days at Kingsoft to launching Xiaomi and turning it into a Fortune 500 global powerhouse. But why would a company that spent a decade perfecting smartphones, smart TVs, and consumer electronics risk billions of dollars to suddenly build a 2-ton electric vehicle? The answer comes down to a mix of personal philosophy, global timing, and technological survival. First, let's look at Lei Jun's core business philosophy. In the Chinese tech world, he is famous for a specific, slightly humorous quote. "Even a pig can fly if it stands at the center of a whirlwind." It means that ultimate success comes from identifying the massive, unstoppable trends in the market and placing yourself right in the middle of them. Today, new energy vehicles, or NEVs, are the ultimate whirlwind. Driven by aggressive national policy support and a global shift towards sustainability, EVs are the undisputed future of transportation. Lei Jun recognized that to miss this whirlwind would mean missing the next industrial revolution. To put this into a global perspective, we have to look at Tesla. Back in 2013, long before Xiaomi made cars, Lei Jun actually traveled to Silicon Valley to meet with Elon Musk. He was fascinated by Tesla's disruption of the legacy auto industry. Years later, when Tesla opened its Shanghai Gigafactory, it created a massive ripple effect across China. It proved the viability of EVs at scale, and more importantly, it supercharged the local manufacturing ecosystem. And that brings us to the second reason Xiaomi could make this leap: the maturity of China's supply chain. 10 years ago, a phone company trying to build a car from scratch would have been financial suicide. But today, China possesses the most robust and complete EV supply chain in the world. Xiaomi didn't need to reinvent the wheel or the battery. By partnering with industry giants who supply the world's top-tier battery packs and electric motors, Xiaomi could focus its massive resources on what it already does best: software, user experience, and design. Finally, there is the harsh reality of the consumer electronics market. The global smartphone industry has hit a bottleneck. People are holding on to their phones longer, and massive year-over-year growth is incredibly difficult to achieve. For a Fortune 500 tech giant to continue growing, it must break through that deadlock. Xiaomi realized that the future isn't just a phone in your pocket, it's a fully connected life. They call this their human cross-car, cross-home ecosystem. They don't just view the YU7 we are driving right now as a car. They view it as the ultimate, largest smart device in their ecosystem, a mobile room that connects seamlessly to your phone, your smart appliances, and your digital life. I'm going to let you enjoy the sights of the downtown hustle for a few minutes, and I will jump back in when we reach our next destination. Stuck in traffic? It's the perfect time for a curious tale from the business world. In early 2021, Xiaomi unveiled a new brand logo. The redesign was the work of legendary Japanese designer Kenya Hara, renowned for his minimalist, philosophical approach and his role as the art director for Muji. The project, a comprehensive visual identity update, reportedly carried a price tag of around 2 million RMB, nearly 290,000 US dollars. When the new logo was revealed, the public reaction was swift and skeptical. To many eyes, the change seemed subtle at best, just a slight softening of the square icon's corners into a super ellipse. The internet buzzed with comments that the master designer had earned a fortune for what looked like 5 minutes of work. But Hera's explanation was one of profound subtlety. He spoke of a design philosophy called Alive, arguing that the new, gently curved form possessed a more organic vitality and dynamism. The adjustment wasn't merely graphical, it was conceptual. Regardless of artistic debate, the episode itself became a viral sensation. The narrative, "Xiaomi paid a fortune for this," spread like wildfire, generating massive online discussion. In an ironic twist, the very controversy served as a powerful, unintended marketing campaign, putting the Xiaomi brand squarely back in the public conversation. And time, it seems, has lent perspective. Today, after years of use, the logo has settled into the visual landscape. What once seemed a minor tweak now feels intentional, softer, more approachable, and perhaps a more natural fit for the evolving identity of Xiaomi, a masterclass in design or in brand narrative. Perhaps it was both. As we navigate through this section of the city, we are approaching a location that holds significant historical weight, not just for Wuhan, but for the entire world. Coming up in our view is the site of the Huanan Seafood Wholesale Market. Today, it is quiet, surrounded by partitions, blending back into the everyday urban landscape of this massive city. But in late 2019, this exact location became the focal point of an event that changed modern history. In December of 2019, local medical professionals identified the first cluster of an unknown pneumonia associated with this market. Operating on public health protocols, local authorities permanently closed the Huanan market on January 1st, 2020 for comprehensive sanitization. Shortly after, the scientific community identified the cause as a novel coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, which led to the global COVID-19 pandemic. Because of its association with those earliest confirmed cases, this site immediately became the center of intensive scientific study. Researchers from China and the World Health Organization have spent years analyzing data from this location to understand the early outbreak. While it is universally recognized as the site of the first major detected cluster, the extensive scientific research into the broader origins of the virus remains a complex, ongoing global effort. What is absolutely certain, however, is the profound impact the subsequent events had on this city. On January 23, 2020, Wuhan entered a strict 76-day lockdown, an isolation order for a megacity of over 11 million people was completely unprecedented in modern public health history. The residents of Wuhan endured the immense, terrifying initial wave of a completely unknown virus. They stayed in their apartments, relied on community workers for basic necessities, and made massive personal sacrifices to buy time for the rest of the country and the world. As we drive past today, this site serves as a sober, quiet reminder of a challenging time and of the lives altered globally during the pandemic. But it is equally important to look at what is happening around us right now. Look at the bustling traffic, the pedestrians, and the thriving businesses. Wuhan is historically known as the thoroughfare of 9 provinces, a vital economic hub at the confluence of the Yangtze and Han rivers. This city has survived floods and immense historical changes over thousands of years. The pandemic is a deeply significant chapter in Wuhan's story, but it does not define the entirety of the city. Today, Wuhan has fully re-emerged as a powerhouse of education, manufacturing, and cutting-edge technology, which is exactly why we are able to test drive a state-of-the-art electric vehicle on these very streets. As we leave the area behind us and continue our drive deeper into the urban core, we take with us a profound respect for the history that happened here, while also looking forward to the future this city is actively building. Just a few moments after leaving the market area, a massive and visually striking building dominates the view on our right. This is Hankou Railway Station, one of the 3 primary passenger transit hubs in Wuhan. First, take a look at the architecture. Unlike the ultra-modern glass and steel high-speed rail stations found across much of modern China, Hankou Station features a distinct, classical European design. It was intentionally built to echo the historic Dajimen Station from the early 20th century, honoring Wuhan's long history as a critical railway junction connecting the north and south of the country. However, the geographic location of this station holds a crucial place in recent history. Hankou Station is located less than a kilometer, just a short walk, from the Huanan market we just passed. In the context of the early 2020 outbreak, this extreme physical proximity was a critical factor. From an epidemiological and public health perspective, having a highly transmissible novel respiratory virus emerge immediately adjacent to one of central China's busiest transport hubs created a perfect storm. This geographical challenge was compounded by the timing. The initial undetected spread coincided directly with Chunyun, the annual Spring Festival travel rush, which is widely recognized as the largest annual human migration on the planet. During this period, millions of students, migrant workers, and families were flowing through these very gates to return to their hometowns across every province. This incredibly high-density throughput and rapid movement of people inevitably accelerated the early, silent spread of the virus, both domestically and internationally. It was this exact realization that led to the unprecedented decision on January 23rd to completely lock down the city, bringing this massive, bustling station to an absolute and historic halt. Seeing the station today, fully operational, with thousands of travelers moving freely through its plazas, offers a stark contrast to the silent, empty images broadcast around the world in 2020. As we continue our drive down this elevated expressway, look over to the left side of the road. That massive medical complex you see is Wuhan Union Hospital. Today, it is one of the largest, most advanced, and most prestigious medical institutions in all of China. It houses over 5,000 beds and leads the country in complex procedures ranging from heart transplants to cutting-edge cellular therapies. But to truly appreciate the sheer scale of this institution, we have to look back over 150 years to its rather surprising origins. Wuhan Union Hospital was actually founded in 1866 by a British missionary from Wales named Griffith John. For those unfamiliar with 19th century Chinese history, you might be wondering why a Western missionary was building medical clinics deep in central China. Following the Opium Wars in the mid-1800s, China's inland port cities, including Hankou, were opened to foreigners. This brought a massive wave of Western missionaries, both Protestant and Catholic, who came primarily to spread their faith. However, pioneers like Griffith John encountered a society that had almost no access to modern scientific medicine. Driven by a humanitarian philosophy of practical care, the belief that you must heal the physical body alongside the spirit, these missionaries began introducing Western science, education, and healthcare. They realized that the most effective way to break down deep cultural barriers and build trust in a traditional society was to alleviate local suffering. They established the very first modern clinics, medical schools, and orphanages in the country. What started in 1866 as a tiny clinic called Renji Hospital with just 2 wards, 15 beds, and a single part-time doctor steadily evolved. It survived the fall of the Qing dynasty, massive historical floods and global conflicts, eventually transitioning into the fully Chinese-run, state-of-the-art public healthcare powerhouse it is today. Most recently, Wuhan Union Hospital once again etched its name into global history. During the earliest and darkest days of the 2020 pandemic, the doctors and nurses inside those buildings were on the absolute front lines, working relentlessly to save lives against a then unknown virus. As we roll into this next district, you'll immediately notice a dramatic shift in the skyline. Look up at the sheer walls of glass and concrete flanking both sides of the road. These aren't office buildings. These are everyday residential complexes. To give our international viewers a true sense of scale, when we say high-rise apartment in Wuhan, we aren't talking about 15 or 20 stories. We are routinely looking at super high-rise residential towers climbing 40, 50, and sometimes even over 60 floors straight into the sky. Imagine living your daily life on the 55th floor, looking down at the clouds. Why does the city build so aggressively upward? It comes down to a constant battle between geography and demographics. Wuhan is famously known as the city of 100 lakes. Between the massive Yangtze and Han rivers and dozens of sprawling urban lakes, the actual dry land available for construction is incredibly tight. Even after decades of extensive and sometimes controversial land reclamation and lake filling projects to create more space, the city still has to house roughly 14 million people. Building these massive vertical neighborhoods is the only mathematical way to accommodate that population. On one hand, this extreme density helps keep Wuhan's absolute housing prices somewhat lower than China's top-tier cities, like Beijing or Shanghai. But the economic reality on the ground is tough. If you compare the cost of these apartments to the average local income, the housing prices in Wuhan and most major Chinese cities are actually among the highest in the world. Buying even a modest concrete box in the sky here requires decades of savings, a massive mortgage, and often the combined financial backing of entire extended families. And living in the sky comes with a unique set of daily, grinding difficulties. The extreme density means thousands of people share a single, small plot of land. During the morning commute, waiting for an elevator to get down from the 55th floor to the street level can take 10 to 15 frustrating minutes. Then there are the practical underlying anxieties. Fire safety and evacuation become incredibly complex when your living room is far above the reach of standard fire truck ladders. We are currently driving down Yanjiang Avenue, which literally translates to along the river avenue. If you look to our left, just beyond the tree line of River Beach Park, lies the mighty Yangtze River. Now, from our perspective inside the cabin of the YU7, you might be wondering why you can't actually see the water. Don't feel regretful about missing it right now. The river is currently hidden behind a massive, elevated embankment. But I promise you, the wait will be worth it. At the very end of today's video, we are going to park in a high elevation lot right on the water's edge. Step out of the car and give you a panorama of the Yangtze. For now, let's talk about the incredible force flowing just out of sight. It is impossible to overstate how deeply Wuhan's identity is tied to this water. In fact, Wuhan's most famous nickname across China is Jiangcheng, which translates directly to the River City. This title dates back over 1,000 years to the legendary Tang Dynasty poet Li Bai, who famously wrote of hearing a jade flute echoing through the River City. The Yangtze is the longest river in Asia. It bisects Wuhan directly through the middle, separating the metropolis into the three distinct towns of Hanyang, Hankou, and Wuchang. For centuries, this waterway was the ultimate superhighway. It brought immense prosperity, transforming Wuhan into the thoroughfare of 9 provinces. Endless streams of cargo, culture, and trade flowed through this exact corridor, making it one of the most vital inland ports in human history. But living alongside the Yangtze has always been a double-edged sword. The same river that brought wealth also brought catastrophic destruction. Before modern engineering, seasonal monsoon rains would frequently overwhelm the riverbanks. The city endured devastating historic floods, most notably in 1931, 1954, and 1998, where the water levels rose so high they completely inundated the very streets we are driving on right now. That history of survival is exactly why we cannot see the river from the road today. That embankment to our left isn't just a park boundary, it is a monumental feat of flood defense. Generations of Wuhan citizens literally reinforced those walls to save their homes. Today, that flood infrastructure has been beautifully transformed into Hankou River Beach Park, the largest riverside park in Asia. It stands as a lush, green recreational space during the dry season and an unbreakable shield for the city during the summer rains. Just down this road, you'll see the Wuhan Municipal Government building on our right. But dominating our view on the left side, right against the riverbank, is a massive stone obelisk. This is the Wuhan Flood Control Monument. Remember the history of the Yangtze floods we just discussed? This monument is the physical testament to that struggle. It was erected to commemorate the massive city-wide effort to defeat the catastrophic flood of 1954. If you look closely at the top as we pass, you can see a prominent red 5-pointed star, and just below it, a golden portrait of Chairman Mao Zedong. Engraved in the center is Mao Zedong's own handwritten inscription. It reads, "Congratulations to the people of Wuhan for defeating the flood of 1954, and also for preparing to overcome the equally serious floods that may occur in the future." It is a powerful, sobering reminder of the city's perpetual, vigilant relationship with the water. Now, as we roll past the monument, pay close attention to the streetscape emerging on our right. The architecture is about to change abruptly. The modern Chinese city suddenly gives way to neoclassical columns, Baroque facades, and heavy stone masonry. We have just entered the area of the former British concession. For our international viewers unfamiliar with 19th century Chinese history, the concept of a concession is crucial to understanding cities like Wuhan or Shanghai. Following China's defeat in the Opium Wars in the mid-1800s, the Qing dynasty was forced to sign unequal treaties. These treaties opened inland ports, like Hankou, to foreign trade. But it went further than just trade. Foreign powers demanded concessions, specific tracts of city land that were leased to them and operated entirely under foreign laws, taxes, and police forces, completely stripping away Chinese sovereignty in those zones. Hankou eventually had 5 major foreign concessions side by side: British, Russian, French, German, and Japanese. It was a dark, humiliating era for the nation. Yet paradoxically, the massive influx of foreign capital, global shipping companies, and international banks transformed this specific stretch of Hankou into a hyper-modern, global financial hub. In the early 20th century, the trade volume here was so massive it was often called the Chicago of the East. Today, long after sovereignty was restored, these European-style buildings have been preserved as historical heritage sites. They stand as quiet, complex reminders of a turbulent century, beautifully repurposed into modern museums, banks, and cafes, as we silently cruise past them today. As we continue our drive, glancing to the left, you will notice a massive structure designed to look almost like a ship docked along the river. This is the Wuhan Science and Technology Museum. It is actually housed inside the former Hankou passenger port, brilliantly repurposing a piece of the city's maritime transit history into a massive, modern educational hub. But the true architectural crown jewel of this avenue is approaching just ahead. In a moment, a towering neoclassical building with a prominent clock tower will dominate the skyline. This is Jianghan Pass, or Jianghan. Completed in 1924, this was the Hankou Customs House. For decades, the ringing of its clock bells dictated the rhythm of daily life and commerce in the city. However, the history of this specific building reveals a fascinating and complex chapter of international relations. During the construction of this building, the Inspector General of the Chinese Maritime Customs Service was a British man named Sir Francis Arthur Aglen. For anyone unfamiliar with Chinese history during this era, this raises an immediate, baffling question. How could a British citizen hold the highest tax and customs authority within the Chinese government? To understand this, we have to look back to the aftermath of the Opium Wars and the unequal treaties we mentioned earlier. Following these conflicts in the mid-19th century, The Qing dynasty was forced to pay massive war indemnities, essentially enormous debts, to foreign powers. Because the Chinese government at the time was struggling with internal rebellions and financial instability, the foreign powers demanded a guarantee that they would be paid. Since maritime trade was the most lucrative source of income, foreign diplomats, led primarily by the British, who controlled the vast majority of the shipping, essentially took over the administration of China's customs offices. The result was the Chinese Imperial Maritime Customs Service. It was a profound historical paradox. Technically, it was an agency of the Chinese government, collecting taxes for the Chinese state. But in reality, it was entirely managed and staffed at the highest levels by foreign nationals like Francis Aglin. For China, this system was a glaring daily symbol of compromised sovereignty. Yet from an administrative standpoint, foreign officials like Aglin instituted highly efficient bureaucratic systems that drastically increased trade revenues. As we leave the grand, sweeping avenues and European facades behind us, you will immediately feel the atmosphere of the video shift. We are now circling through the old city area of Hankou. Looking through the windshield, the contrast is stark. The roads here are narrow, the buildings show their age, and the traffic is a dense, wandering maze of pedestrians, electric bicycles, and delivery carts. To an outside observer, it might appear somewhat dilapidated and chaotic. But for the people who live here, this is the absolute soul of Wuhan. In Chinese culture, this vibrant, unfiltered energy is called Yan Huo Qi, which translates to the smoke and fire of the streets. This beautiful chaos is deeply tied to how the people of this city eat. Because Wuhan has operated as a massive, high-turnover inland port for centuries, it was a city of constant motion. Unlike other regions in China that spent dynasties developing slow, elaborate, multi-course banquet cuisines, Wuhan's culinary identity was forged right down on the docks. The millions of laborers, merchants, and sailors who built this city didn't have the luxury of a 2-hour sit-down meal. They needed food that was fast, affordable, and packed with enough heavy calories to power them through a grueling day of physical labor. This historical necessity gave birth to Wuhan's legendary street food and breakfast culture. The city's signature dishes, like sesame-drenched hot dry noodles or crispy, pan-fried daopi, were literally engineered to quickly fill the stomachs of dock workers. Because of this working-class history, the most authentic, mouth-watering flavors in Wuhan aren't found inside high-end, air-conditioned shopping malls or five-star hotels. They are hidden right here. The true culinary masters of this city operate out of the oldest, smallest, and most unassuming storefronts, buried deep within these crowded, chaotic neighborhoods. We are finally emerging from the maze of Hanku's old city and heading toward our final destination, a high-elevation parking area right on the banks of the Yangtze River. As we make this short drive, it's worth reflecting on the sheer contrast of the last 2 hours. We started this journey at a hyper-modern railway station. We crossed monumental bridges, passed 19th century hospitals, and drove through the shadows of European concessions. And just a moment ago, we were navigating the raw, unfiltered alleys that have fed dock workers for generations. But perhaps the biggest contrast of all is the vehicle we are sitting in. We just drove a futuristic, fully electric super SUV, essentially a rolling supercomputer built by a smartphone company, through streets that were laid out before cars even existed. It is a perfect metaphor for Wuhan itself, a city with incredibly deep, ancient roots that is aggressively hurtling toward the future. We have finally reached the banks of the Yangtze. Let's step out of the YU7 for a moment and stretch our legs. Earlier in the drive, I promised you a panorama of the river that built this city. However, the reality of exploring a massive, living megacity of 14 million people is that things don't always go according to plan. Unfortunately, every single prime parking space, which can appreciate the vast river scenery, is currently occupied by locals enjoying their day. So our grand finale view is heavily filtered through these riverside trees and the steel structure of the local ferry bridge. But honestly, there is something fitting about this imperfect view. Wuhan isn't a manicured, artificial postcard. It is a dense, layered, and fiercely pragmatic metropolis. We started today near the high-tech railway stations, navigated past the peaceful lake path, magnificent Yangtze River Bridge, 19th century hospitals, and flood monuments, drove through the shadow of European concessions, and finally wove our way through the chaotic, beautiful smoke and fire of the old Hankou streets. Seeing the Yangtze River partially obscured by the daily infrastructure of the city is exactly what this channel is about. Experiencing the raw, unfiltered reality of the drive. This imperfect, quiet moment by the water marks the end of part 1 of our Wuhan journey. Take a few seconds to listen to the wind and bird calls by the river. Thank you for riding in the passenger seat with me today. Make sure you join me for part 2, where we will get back behind the wheel and experience a completely different side of Wuhan